Hi, I'm Emily Pennington with Wine and Spirits Daily, and I'm coming to you from WSWA TV studios at the 75th Annual WSWA Convention and Exposition in fabulous Las Vegas. And today I have with me Hattie Hill, who is the President and CEO of Women's Food Service Forum, and Barkley Stuart, Executive Vice President at Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits, and new Chairman for WSWA. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Nice
Great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Let's start off with Barkley. I'd like to ask you why you chose, women's leadership and diversity in general as your platform for your chairmanship.
I thought a lot about it, and I really wanted to have a way to make a contribution to the industry, and I wanted it to be something that was personal and meaningful to me, but also impactful to the industry, something where I really felt like I could make a difference.
And during your speech, you mentioned Hattie's Women's Food Service Forum, and personally I'd like to hear more about it and what you do there.
Sure, thank you. Great, honored to be here. Great to be with Barkley. First time at the show, so I'm really excited about that. The Women's Food Service Forum is a nearly 30-year-old organization, and it is really focused on the food, what we call the food ecosystem. And we all know no food is good without wine. So we have to have wine and spirits included in that process. So the organization has been around. We've been looking to advance women in this industry because we have a clear, visible set of metrics that say that businesses do better when women are in leadership roles. So we really focus in on the development. How do we get women promoted, management skills, what are the skills they need to be successful?
And how long have you been working together? I understand you have a relationship with Southern Glazers?
Yes, so I met Barkley maybe 3 years, 4 years, it was longer than that.
I remember you're coming in and doing some work with Glazers maybe 8 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
But we sort of reconnected again in the last year and a half, and Hattie is, incredible and amazing, and she has done a number of different things. She's done some diversity awareness and unconscious bias work with Glazers pre-merger, and some work post-merger just recently with our most senior leaders. And when we first talked, we talked about this idea of the power of data, and that if you really want to be able to have an influence on an issue, you need to have a good yardstick and you need to have a good basis for how it is that you're going to address things. If people don't trust the data, then they aren't willing to act. They aren't willing to take it seriously. So what to me is so powerful is that we're going to have a pool of data of all wholesalers or mini wholesalers that we can measure ourselves against. So we can say, as an industry, how are we doing, and how does our company relate to the industry?
When you say a pool of wholesalers, do you mean food service as well, or just all wine and spirits wholesalers?
All of the above, actually.
Yeah,
so the Women's Food Service Forum has been doing this for a while with McKinsey, and we're a new subgroup of the food service industry, and so we, through the Southern Glazers affiliation with WFF, we've invited the WSWA to include all of the WSWA members in the study so that we could have a way of measuring.
So let's talk about how all of these findings and initiatives are well and good, but I want to get into how do you actualize these methods within a wholesaler, for example?
Well, I'll go back a bit to the data. So when we partnered with McKinsey and Leanin.org to really start to look at this, the data, and Barkley mentioned it in his speech, they said for the gender equity gap to close, it would take us 100 years. And our board of directors said, you know what, that's too long.
We don't have that kind of time?
We don't have that kind of time, and how do we start to actualize? So to Barkley's point, it was, let's look at the data, because you always start with fact-based, data-driven, and then what are the actionable items that will come out of that? And this study was really done, Women in the Workplace was done across all industries. Okay. And then we went to McKinsey and said we would be very interested in understanding how what we call the food ecosystem, which includes wine and spirits, how are we impacted? And so they said, okay, pull some companies together and we can give you it by segment. So the data is then, the reason you can really work from fact and actionable, because the data is very comprehensive. You can compare yourself to all industries. Then we compare ourselves to the food industry. Then we break down operators, manufacturers, and distributors. And then, based on the amazing work that Barkley and this team has done, we will then be able to pull out a cut of data specifically for wine and spirits. And then you can really make that actionable, because it's not sort of up here, it drills down to what do we know need to happen. And I'll give you one of the most important actionable items. It is amazing men like Barkley and this team and the leadership here being a role model, because when men stand up and say this is about our business, this is about the future, it's about growth, that begins the process. And so what he's done, making this an agenda item, will immediately start to move the needle.
What are some of the practices that you have found in other industries that have worked towards increasing diversity and leadership?
One of the things that's really been big is the groundswell up. A lot of companies for years had the employee resource groups, they had amazing energy at the bottom of the company, but it still didn't move the needle. So what we did for the first time at our conference this year, of the original 32 companies that took the surveys, we invited the CEOs to be on stage to give fact-based analysis of their business and how they see it changing. So you have to come at it from top down and then bottom up, because there's this amazing pipeline of talent out there, and if we want to attract and retain talent for the industry, we have to be the industry that gets to the finish line first. So that's really the big effort now, is to create amazing opportunities like this, great collaboration like we're doing here, and then all of us working together to move forward.
Now, what about recruitment? Barkley, this is for you. What about recruitment at the entry level for women and people of color? Do you think that we need to increase that at the entry level, or do you think it's more about progressing those?
I think we're actually pretty good at recruitment. What we see is that it's a pipeline issue. That we fill the pipeline pretty well at the beginning, but what we don't do well enough is have an environment where women and people of color and other groups, frankly, feel valued in their role for their uniqueness. And I think that's really the key, is that there's sort of a silent disempowerment, that if we as leaders aren't active in helping to break through, it discourages people. And when someone's discouraged, they don't speak up for themselves and they don't stay.
Do you do, with the Women's Food Service Forum, do you do as much education of the employees themselves and teaching them how to stand up for themselves, like Barkley was referring to, or is it more about leadership, giving them voices?
So we do both. So we have, WFF is the largest women's leadership organization in the industry, and so we offer a specific content based on research-based competencies, and we do that all year long. We have our big industry conference, which is about 3,200. Barkley attended this year. We also do a President and CEO forum. So we're working it from both areas, train the executives, and then also train the pipeline, so that the pipeline is ready to move as well. Because two things that we found with the research is that very often women don't have the confidence to put themselves out there, and so they're waiting for someone to say, yes, you're ready for this job. Where the research, by the way, said that women can have 80% of the skills in a job description and they won't go for the job, where men can have less than 50% and they'll raise their hand. And so that in itself creates a challenge for us. So we have to also help women have the confidence to say, yes, don't wait, go and ask for the job. So that it's going to be both ends working together.
I know that the data is not in yet for wholesalers, but are there any positive, indicators that you see within this industry that say, yes, maybe we could get better at this?
Sure, I think the biggest positive indicator is this type of forum where you step up and take it on as a mantle. That's a huge gap, because now it's going outside just this industry, but into this bigger pool. Secondly, I think it's amazing leadership that says, yes, we want to take the data and take it on. The 2 or 3 or 4 things that we learn from the data will then start be implemented, but there's all kinds of learning that's going on all the time. So it's really making sure that as leaders, we will start communicating with all the companies that signed on immediately. Here's some things you can do for HR. Here's articles. Here's somebody speaking. If you want, we had unconscious bias training here yesterday that was great. How do you do more of that? How do you help women build their confidence? So there's things you can continue to do and monitor throughout the year.
2 things that I would add, or amplify. I think we're having a lot of conversation at this convention about women's advancement and empowerment, and that's great. So the more that the conversation's taking place, the more it's going to be on people's minds, and the more people are going to calibrate their actions against what they're hearing and thinking about. The other thing I would say is that it is about leadership. It's about a lot of people showing leadership. When I hear you say that, I think about how fortunate I feel to have Wayne Chaplin as such an advocate for women's advancement and for diversity at Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. He's frustrated that we haven't been able to make more progress, and he sees that as a personal challenge. And he's been so supportive of me in this work, and I'm really grateful for that.
All right, wonderful. I think we've been through most of my questions. Do you have anything important that you want to touch on that we can transition into?
I want to say how fabulous Hattie is again.
Oh, you're great. No, you know what? I'm just excited to be here. This is awesome. The WFF is really a convener of this process, but without great collaboration, it won't work. We can't do it by ourselves. So all of us coming together, partnering with the local women's leadership for this organization. Amazing job last night. I was at the event. That was great. And what we wanted to do is to pull together the comprehensive data, and then we can share that, and all of us collaborate together, because together we can move forward a lot stronger than any of us could individually.
Well, again, thank you so much for being here. This is a cause that's really, close to my heart, and I am grateful to WSWA for letting me get the chance to interview you both about it. And thank all of you for joining us. Stay tuned for more later.